And oh yes, we are on. Yay. Got it. All right, guys. Hello, we are live. My name is Sergine. I'm an alumni of Imagine This and a fellow filmmaker. And it was just such a treat to be invited to watch your fantastic movies and get to chat with you a little bit. So we're just going to go around. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, maybe where you are in the world right now, and tell us a little bit about your film, and then we'll get started with the Q&A. So I have Andy to my right.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Andy Janelle Leggett. I am a writer-director based in Brooklyn, New York, originally from Reston, Virginia. And my film was Suga, which is a fantastical romance comedy about a young Southern baker who has a mild flirtation with a customer and her imagination takes on a life of its own. And yeah.
Paige.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige Hullett. I'm the co-director of Birds, Bees, and Threes. I directed with Margot Susie, and our film is based on a true story from my childhood. I'm a triplet, and it's a story that happened to my sisters and I when we were 8 years old. Yeah, it's a comedy. It's very funny.
Thank you.
And I'm based in Los Angeles.
Awesome. Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Miro Fischer. I am from Berlin in Germany. My film is called Spit, and it's about a young woman who, after a traumatic experience, needs to rediscover what she likes and what she wants in life, kind of.
Thank you. Margot.
Hi, my name is Margot Susie. I am the co-director of Birds, Bees, and Threes. I'm also based in LA. And piggybacking off of what Paige said, our story is about how three 8-year-old triplets find out what sex is, and all the insanity that ensues from that conversation.
Thank you. Marissa.
Hey everyone, Marissa Gavami here, she, they pronouns. Really grateful to be here. So I am the co-writer and lead producer on the short film Silk. It follows a gifted aerialist who struggles to recognize that she is being gaslit by her new boyfriend. It is sort of a modern nod to the 1944 classic film Gaslight.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let me start around with a couple questions. I'm very curious. So did you guys all get to experience seeing your film with an audience? So after 2 years of hell. So my first question is that, were there any surprising reactions from the audience, or are there interesting questions you get? It can be both positive or negative. I know for me as a filmmaker, sometimes I get a question. That's why when I'm asked to do a Q&A, I'm curious to hear what are the interesting reactions and what are the funny questions you can get, Andy.
Yeah, so this was actually Suga's first in-person screening. It's had screenings, but they've all been online. So it was really special to like be in the room and just kind of get a pulse of people's reactions. And you know, I say it's a comedy, but sometimes when you make a comedy, you're like, is it funny? You know, and, you know, hearing people laugh was really reassuring. It's like, okay, that landed. That's great. And then there's, of course, other things that didn't land as well, which is fine. But yeah, I think that was probably the best takeaway from that experience.
And do you get sometimes annoying questions or questions that are strange?
About this particular one, not exactly. I think some people in the past screenings have been like, wait, so was it a fantasy? Was that her real boyfriend? So maybe some of that kind of went over a few people's heads, but I think for the most part, it was a pretty straightforward narrative. Yeah.
Thank you. Paige.
So because our film is a true story and I was there for this true story, that naturally breeds questions. And what's made me really happy throughout showing our film is that people, Margot and I have found that people like to talk about how they found out about sex when they were younger and talk about their experience and if they related. I have a Catholic background. The film set against the backdrop of the Catholic Church. So a lot of people who kind of had similar experiences are sharing their own, which makes me so happy. And people like Margot grew up a total, like very sex positive home. So very different than my experience. So hearing from her side and people who grew up similar to Margot's background, it's really fun for people to start sharing their experience and how they might want to talk to their kids about it one day. Has been that was the goal of the film. So seeing that those conversations happen have been really, it's made me happy that people are having this conversation.
And I would love to hear, because you guys co-directed, so would you like, what is it like? Would you like to share a little bit of your process? Who does what? How is it sometimes easier? Is it sometimes a little bit more complicated?
Sure. Well, Paige and I have been collaborators and artists for a long time together. We actually met years ago in an acting class that we were both taking. It was a pretty seamless collaboration working together in this sense. I think first and foremost, we were like, respect always, and this is just play, because otherwise, why are we doing this? So I think that we had a really good rapport in that sense. And I knew at least that this is Paige's real story. So I'm here to just service that story the best I can. So, you know, if Paige had a really strong feeling one way or the other about a specific thing, I'd be like, you know, yes, and right. But besides that, I think we really shared delineations, you know, or shared responsibilities in terms of talking. You know, we were both there. We both talked to the actors, both very involved in the edit. It was pretty seamless. We got lucky.
Definitely. I think the fact that Margot and I, from the get-go, just have had really strong communication as friends and actors, we were able to bring that over to the directing process. I think just, you know, bounce ideas off each other and really use each other's different strengths to collaborate and make a project. I mean, Margot 100% elevated the project for us. And I think us collaborating together, especially as women, it was so exciting to watch two women to come together to elevate a project, and how many women we had on our crew and how amazing that energy on set felt. It was an experience I'll remember forever. It was pretty magical.
Thank you. And Sarah, were you surprised by some of the reactions or questions?
Yeah, it was funny because like in the writing process, I had a lot of like funny moments in my head, but over the time I kind of got so used to them that I didn't think about them as funny anymore. And then it was very different. Like I had one screening where it's just like super serious environment. It was like super dense in the audience. And then very different audience, like younger people kind of here in Berlin who have been laughing half through the whole film. And I was really like, yeah, true. That was in the script originally, but I had just forgotten about it over time a little bit. So that was pretty crazy how different the rooms felt, kind of.
And so you're in Germany. Did you get to show your film in different countries?
Yeah, but I had COVID the first time, and I'm going to show it in London in the autumn, so I think I'll go there, and the rest of the screenings have been in Germany, so I was just present in Germany.
I know for me personally, it was with my film, it was so interesting to see the different reactions in Italy or in other countries. So
Yeah.
are you getting different reactions from people who ask you questions or tell you about your film?
Well, I feel like people are very polite. So I guess people who didn't like the film don't come up to you and tell you like, I thought it was shit or something. So I just like, you know, the people who talk to you kind of like talk to you because they want to say something nice. I had the feeling though that with like, there was like, we screened it at one festival where the audience was like a little bit older maybe than the characters. And I felt like they couldn't really connect so much to the subject and what was going on. I felt like they felt a little bit like almost offended. I felt a bit the vibe of like, nope. but yeah, that's the only thing I can.
Thank you. And Marissa.
So we had a screening in person. We are virtual with this festival, but we had a screening in person with Big Apple, and we have one coming up with Soho. And it's been really interesting because, really originally I thought that this film was going to be primarily for victims or potential victims of gaslighting and other forms of psychological and emotional abuse. And what we found, which I am so excited by and surprised by, is that we've had about an equal number of victims as perpetrators come forward. So we created a film with some grace and some enough nuance and subtlety that we are having folks say, I do this and I want to get help. So for me, that is like the biggest win. I will not say that that was my original intention, but it is the happiest, I don't want to say accident, but just it's so welcome. So that has been, I think, for me, the biggest surprise. Also, we've had we're doing private screenings, workshops built around it on the insidious forms of abuse and trauma. And in these private workshops, we're having so many, even professionals in mental health say, I didn't know what some of these things were. I didn't know what blame shifting was or projection was or love bombing or mirroring. I didn't know what some of the treatment modalities are that one can get that's really effective in healing from this sort of trauma. So it has just been even more educational and even more of a call to action than maybe we originally thought. And that is incredible.
That's amazing. That's so amazing. I'm so glad to hear. All right. I want to, who do I start with? Paige and Margot, I had a similar, I also transitioned. I also started as an actor transitioning to films. I'm always curious how was your experience transitioning from acting to directing? And what were your biggest lessons? Did you have mentors? Did you have people to help you out? I know a lot of young aspiring filmmakers will be watching. So I'm wondering if you have any words of wisdom for making that transition.
Just do it. Just you can't learn unless you do it. You just have to, the hardest and scariest thing will be doing it for the first time. Find people who you respect, who you have talent crushes on, and ask them to collaborate. I think that's first and foremost, because you'll better to fail and learn than not do anything and succeed. So first thing I'll say. Paige, you want to?
Yeah. Going off what Margot said, I think it's giving yourself permission to do it. I was an actor in a film called Yes, God, Yes, that was directed by a female director named Karen Main. And the movie was kind of based off some things that happened to her. And when I told her about my short film, and just because she was the first female director I ever worked with, she was really inspiring to me. And she was like, you should direct this yourself. Because I was playing with not directing with it. And she was like, you should be the one to direct this. This is your story. And then she gave me some book recommendations, and just her giving me that permission and encouraging me to do it, and giving me that licensing, I think really gave me that confidence to pursue this. And so I think, whether it be watching other female directors' movies and seeing, look at their backgrounds, where they came from, show yourself that it's possible too. I think, and then bring your skill sets. If you're coming from a different background, like acting, use those skill sets on set. So I know how, important it is to receive direction as an actor versus can you just be specific with your direction versus being vague, and how can you meet the actor where they are? Talk to your actors the way that you would love to be talked to when you're on set. Things like that, whatever your background may be, use those skill sets into your next venture that you take on. And
what were some of the books they recommend?
Oh my gosh. I need to look them up, and I'll put it in the chat so you guys can post about it. They're at my apartment in LA, but there was one that was wonderful. I'm blanking on the name, but I'll make sure I pass that along so you can post it maybe in the comments.
Did you get maybe directing actors, Judith Weston? Did you get that one?
Oh, I did not get that one. I studied more of the technical aspect of this stuff because that's what I wasn't familiar with. So I think the books were talking about that, and but I'm sure that's a great book as well, is because you get to have both skill sets, right? The technical and the ability to talk to actors as well. It's both skill sets. So
Absolutely. Thank you. And Andy, I would love to talk about the theme that you explore in your film about escaping reality. Where does it come from for you, and why is it an important subject matter?
Yeah. So I wrote this at the height of quarantine, and one, I was baking a lot, as a lot of people, making sourdough bread, making muffins, cookies, whatever, just trying to like decompress and forget that the world is crumbling around me a little bit. And then I also was going frequently to this bakery, like close to my house, called Petey's Pies. It's in Clinton Hill. And it's this beautiful bakery that's like 1950s inspired, which it kind of informed, like kind of gave me the inspiration for the story as a whole. But I think that, you know, because I was in this like quarantine mindset, because I was, you know, trying to escape myself, it kind of inspired this like escapist theme within the story, of just trying to like, I don't know, make some sweetness out of a sour situation, which I think anyone can relate to in some fashion. So that's really where that came from.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I'm looking at the time. I have enough time. Okay. So Sarah, your film goes back and forth. It crosses a very fine line. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I would love for you to talk about what you're using, about getting very close, going back and forth between two very different things.
Yeah, I feel like I was just trying to figure out for the character where her limits are, where the boundaries are. And for that, I was trying to come up with situations that can go either way, like that are very similar, but like something small makes a big difference in how it feels for the person that's experiencing that situation. So I was really looking to go into that and kind of feel where is the breaking point, and what kind of little thing can be too much, and what is missing here, and why is it different when someone is standing just a little bit further away from you instead of just coming this close. And it has a lot to do with like body language and kind of nonverbal communication that leads through these moments, I think.
Thank you. And Marissa, so you co-wrote, so similar question than I had with Paige and Margot about collaboration. And then after that collaboration, you know, was there, how is it like to kind of surrender your story to a director? And do you have to let go of some things? Do you make interesting discoveries? What was that like for you?
Sure. So I had never written professionally before, and I absolutely didn't want to do it alone. So I started interviewing some writers, and our lovely director, John Magaro, he introduced me to a friend of his. John is an actor first. He's well known for being in Carol, The Big Short, you know, The Umbrella Academy, etc. And he had played our co-writer, David Cottle, in a play that David wrote. So he knew David as a playwright, and he said, you've really got to meet David. And I was in a play with our lead. I'm an actor first. I was in a play with our lead in Silk, Krista at the time, and I learned of her amazing aerial abilities. She was Zendaya's body double for The Greatest Showman, and I was just like in awe of her, and I just thought, I'm producing my first film. I really want to feature her talent. What can I do? So I was interviewing co-writers, and I told David, I said, look, I have this crazy idea. It's probably stupid. I was really downplaying it. And I said, but you know, kids these days, young people, they don't know, gosh, I sound really old, kids these days, but you know, the younger generation, Gen Z, they don't know what a gas lamp is, like from that movie Gaslight. They don't understand that the term gaslighting came from that literal term. So how do we relate it to them? And I said, you know, it's probably dumb, but I'm in this play with this brilliant aerialist. What if it was a lighting designer and an aerialist, and he was messing with her lighting in her show. And I was so insecure about the idea, and David just gave me all the belief in the world that it wasn't silly or stupid, that it was actually really brilliant, and that he would love to do it. So he was so encouraging, and for a first-time writer of a screenplay, that was the type of collaboration that I really needed, that encouragement. And then he knew, the structure. I mean, he is a professional writer, and I was not. I was coming in just as an actor myself. So even though I don't act in this movie. And so for me, the collaboration was a lot of leaning on him for structure and leaning on him for encouragement and sort of asking permission, or just getting unsolicited permission. That was huge. And he was so generous, and he was always just like, this is your baby. It's inspired by life events, but it is in no way a retelling of anything literally that happened to me. So he was always just so generous. And then when we surrendered it over to John, John was just so generous as well. I mean, we never had like a fight about, or any sort of tension about, oh, this is the writer's vision and this is the director's vision. One thing that we all really agreed on, along with our DP, Francis Chen, was really just, we want the audience to question if, I hope this isn't a spoiler, but we want the audience to question if the lead character, Fran Krantz, or the lead male character, Fran Krantz, if he is abusive for as long as possible. So in both the writing and in the direction, it was subtlety first. Do not make him look like a bad guy. The more the audience can feel like Kara, the lead, the better. And so I think we all just really agreed on that. And the collaboration on set, we had a 75% female crew, most of whom were BIPOC and queer, and many of whom had lived through gaslighting and similar emotional abuse. And so honestly, the entire set, it was so collaborative, it was so generous, it was the smoothest set I've been on. And I think we had a unity of vision. So the collaboration was kind of easy because we all wanted to tell the same story, I think. Yeah.
I'm hearing so much. I got to watch your films and then another short block, and I'm hearing so much about the power of mentorship, or these people that come and collaborate with us that we can lean on. But pretty much the opposite of gaslighting or abuse. When
Sure.
we start surrounding ourselves with people that can actually lift us up.
Yeah, and aligning yourself with people who see your vision and who are willing to use the status or the privilege or the star power that they have to tell stories that they believe in. Because frankly, if we would not have had John come on, I hope he sees this, hi John, if we had not had John come on as a director, we would not have had the well-known cast we had, we would not have had, all the funding that we got. Like, it's amazing what somebody can do. So, for anybody watching, or for all of us, like when we're in that position, it makes a world of difference.
So if we were going to, to piggyback on that, if we were going to pay it forward, I know there's a lot of aspiring filmmaker watching. What's the biggest lesson you learned on this project, maybe on just this project or on your journey as a filmmaker? What are some words of wisdom you would like to share? Let's start with Paige and Margot.
Hire everybody smarter than you. Hire everybody smarter than you and ask them every question you have, especially if you're coming from a different medium. I started in theater, so the first time I was behind the camera, I didn't know, anything. I didn't know what breaking the line meant, right? So just hire a DP who's smarter, hire everybody who's smarter, and hire the people who are the best at the job and trust that they can do it. Try not to micromanage your team, and don't be afraid to ask any and every question if you're lucky enough to get a mentor, especially.
Totally. I would say for me, this story kept coming around to me. I kept hearing people, I would tell the story verbally and people would be like, oh, you should make that, or that should be a movie. And finally my intuition was screaming so loud at me to make this film, I just gave in. So listen to intuition. You can talk out decisions, but also trust yourself that you know what to do, I think is huge. And I do have the books now. So the first one is John York's Into the Woods, and then Film Directing Fundamentals. Those are the two books I recommend. And so, yeah, I think what Margot said too, the last thing I'll say is no question is silly, or don't be embarrassed to ask questions. It's how you learn, and it's a great way to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay. Thank you. Andy.
Yeah, those are both great advice. The first thing that came to my mind was make sure that whatever project you put into is something you're really excited about and something that you're really passionate about, because filmmaking is hard. Even if it's a short film, like it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of collaboration. And I just highly recommend trying to find projects that really move you in any way, whether it makes you laugh, cry, challenges you in any way. Like pick something that you're excited by and truly love.
Thank you. Sarah.
Yeah, I think maybe in connection to what you just said, also be patient. I feel like the filmmaking process is like quite a long process. It takes time and it's okay. And it's like step by step, and have like try to gather breath, because it takes time. And that's the beauty of it also, but it's also something to be aware about, I guess.
Thank you, Marissa.
Gosh, I learned so many things that I'd love to pass on. I think one of the things that really stood out to me is we had a background actor. I asked them how they found out about the project. I wanted to know, like, Actors Access, Breakdown Services. And then they asked me how I found out about it and if I was a quote unquote intern. And when I told them that I was the co-writer and lead producer, they were embarrassed. They felt like they had offended me. And I said, no, that's the biggest compliment, because I was holding the door for them. And I said, no, the fact that you see me getting coffee for people and holding the door for people, that is literally the biggest compliment to my leadership that you could give me, that you didn't see like the hierarchy on set. So I think like when you're making, your first film or your 100th film, have that attitude of service, and don't have this attitude of like, oh, I'm a producer, I can't do that. I think that always being of service is going to create the best possible set, and it's going to help you in the end to have everybody happy. And then don't be afraid to, reach out to people in your circle, or, maybe a couple people removed in your circle who have the influence, who have the, the name to help your project get further. The worst that they can say is no. And the best that they can say is yes. And they can bring in a lot of people who can get more eyeballs on your project. And with that, names are great. They create visibility and funding opportunities, but then don't get so name happy that you're pushing out a bunch of people who are talented and skilled and underrepresented and deserve that opportunity. So I would say balance that out so that you're also creating opportunities for others. And then expect there to be crises. Expect there to be a crisis like every single day leading up to production, in production, and in post. And just go into it knowing that, your job as a filmmaker is putting out fires. And so if you get into the flow of just, this is my job, as opposed to this is interfering with my job, I think that's going to make for a lot less stress. And, just reach out, find people that care about the content that you're creating, and reach out. The second film that I did was Mass. I was a co-producer on one of the most talked about films of last year, because our lead actor wrote that film and asked me to come on. So now I get messages from people based on the success of that. And even if I don't have the capacity, even if the answer is no, I'm never offended. I'm always flattered. So I think just, look people up and have the guts to make an ask. And that goes with like film camera equipment, lighting equipment, food donations, ask. The worst thing that can happen is saying no.
Thank you. All right. So we're almost out of time, but I would like to go around one last time. And if you guys can share where people can watch your film, if you have a website, your social media, if there's anything you'd like people that will see us forever on YouTube to know about, please let us know. So Andy.
Yeah, my film's not currently available right now, but if you want to check out some other work or some things I've been working on, you can go to my website, which is Andy, ANNDIJL.com. You can check out my stuff there.
Paige?
So we have a website, birdsbeesandthreesfilm.com. That's also our social media handles. We'll be at another festival at the end of the month, and then streaming online for this festival again as well. And then you can keep up with our website, and that's where you can find out when our film becomes public. Right now, it's not public yet, but it will be eventually.
All right, Sarah.
Yeah, same goes for me. It's not public yet, and it's still going to be shown some places. You can check my work at my website. I don't know, like it's saramirofisher.com. I don't know if you can spell it right, but maybe just try different versions, and then at some point you're gonna get there. Yeah.
Thank you. Margot, do you have anything to add to what Paige said?
You can, what Paige said, socials are pretty active on there. For my other work, you can also check out my personal website, margotsusi.com, Margot with an X, because that always throws people off. And yeah, and hopefully we will have Birds, Bees, and Threes up for everybody to see soon.
Awesome. Marissa?
Yeah, so you can follow Silk on Instagram at Silk Short Film and on Facebook at Silk The Short Film. You can also follow the production company behind it, which is my nonprofit, at Healing Tree Org on Instagram and Twitter. And then just Healing Tree or healingtreenonprofit.org is the handle on Facebook. You can follow me personally at Marissa Ghavami, Ghav as in Victor, AM as in Michael, I is last name. First name is 1 R, 2 S's. That's across Facebook and Instagram. I do not have a Twitter. I just got on TikTok. We will be screening at the Soho International Film Festival on Wednesday, October 12th in the evening, I believe. And then we also have some West Coast screenings as well. And then if you are interested in a workshop, so it's 2 hours around the film where we talk about the most insidious red flags of abuse and trauma and what can be done about them, you can check out healingtreenonprofit.org/silk. You can read the life-changing testimonials, see our trailer, and we actually have funding for free workshops for organizations in the state of Kentucky, thanks to the generosity of Face It. So you can visit our website and message us if you are interested in one of those.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, guys. That was such a pleasure to get to meet you. I will stalk you on social media, and I hope to run into you very soon. Thank